Right then, hey there, guys. I am here with a special interview today. I have done uh, another previous two Ghostbusters related interviews. I did Alex Newborn, actually, of the Ghostbusters Alabama Ghostbusters franchise group, and Robin Shelby, who played Slimer in Ghostbusters 2. Today, I am with another Ghostbusters 2 back in the day was a younger actor from the movie. Um, he co-starred with his brother, which is sadly not with us anymore. Is it? Is your last name is Deutschendorf? Is that right?
Yeah, Deutschendorf would be how you pronounce it correctly, but I
Um,
never say it that way. So
yeah. First up, I just would like to tell you about my condolences, and I'm sorry to hear about your brother.
thank you. It's always nice to hear, people are still thinking about him.
Yeah. Um, so I guess it's kind of hard because you were only a child during the movie. So can you able to was people able to tell you about the movie? How you were when you grew up?
Yeah,
Or
I'm pretty much going off of information my parents have told me,
yeah,
which thankfully over all the years, there's lots of times that they've brought it up and, told me different stories about the movie. So I have a little bit of insight into how everything went,
yeah,
but I also have the parental bias that happens at the same time. So
yeah.
that,
So I actually in the film, if people don't know, or would anybody not know from watching the movie that this guy here, Vigo the Carpathian, was obviously the inhabitants who wanted to inhabit Oscar, who wanted to come back to life through his body, wasn't it? Um, uh, but there's the Vigo controlled the river of slime, but he also wanted to have a body to also live again as well. So that was the sort of main premise and story of the movie. But there are scenes in the film that I find like really interesting. Like um, with being so young, you'd had to have screen time, separate screen time. Was it for your brother had to do something, and then you did as well?
right. So that's how they do it on movies because you can only have babies acting for so long because of child labor laws. So that's why they usually pick twins or triplets because they want to make sure they get as much acting time as they can with all
Yeah,
the other, main actors in the movie. They don't want to be waiting because they can only have a baby on set for 2 hours. So that's usually why they pick twins.
yeah, that's quite cool. That's quite good though. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, we did you do a documentary a couple of years ago called "Clean Up the Town, Remembering Ghostbusters"? It's done by Claire and Anthony Breno.
Yeah, I remember that. That was great. They came out to our martial arts school and they were super nice about everything. They waited until like the end of the day at like 9 p.m. to do it because we had classes going on. And
Yeah,
that was a lot of fun because they got a lot of video footage that they actually sent to me right after Hank passed away because
right.
I was just looking for anything. We were making like a little Google album of him. And they sent me the whole, like 30, 40-minute interview, which I know they were not going to use the whole thing or they didn't, but it was nice to have that because it was just good, happy memories.
Yeah, they actually had to break the documentary in half. For the first one for the 1984 movie, and then the other half, which I think they're gonna title "Too Hot to Handle," which is all for the sequel, which I
Gotcha.
think it might be coming out later this year.
That would be cool. I know they've been working on that thing for a long time. I
Yeah,
mean, it's hard because
so
they have to travel and they're trying to get as much as they can in there.
I mean, they've been working on it and editing it ever since like Howard Ramis. Egon was interviewed as well on that, and he since passed away as well.
Right.
So so, yeah, this documentary is going to be pretty good to have, you and your brother on it and talk about the film, and Howard Ramis as well, who was on the first one I've seen. So that's quite cool. Um,
Right.
I like really in the beginning of the film. I don't know if it was you or your brother that was the one that was going down in the carriage at the beginning of the movie. Because that was quite a good effect. Because the reaction or of either you or his face was like, it was you can actually like tell it was actually kind of like realistic at the time, because the camera must have been like popped up on it or something. I don't know how it was done, but it looked kind of cool.
And it was scenes like that actually got Hank and I into the Screen Actors Guild, because one of the stunt actors on set told my dad, like, you should be able to get them into the Screen Actors Guild because they're doing stunts. And originally we didn't have that kind of deal. And so my dad kept on pressing Ivan Reitman and being a pain in the butt until we were able to get that, actually, which is great. And my dad's relatively well known for being abrasive, and that's why they, named Vigo the Carpathian after him and gave him our last name, was because my dad a pain in the butt on the set. So I mean, but yeah, it's cool to think that we were in the movie and doing stunts, at such a young age. Even though it's not much of a stunt, it still counts, and still got us into the Screen Actors Guild, which is great.
And also, I'm trying to think of all special effects things, like the ledge scene, like on the outside of Peter Venkman's apartment building.
Right.
That was quite good. How Janos, as the ghost nanny, came down and used like one hand to just pick you up and then took you to the museum.
Yeah, and that was a pretty good special effect at the time, because from what I remember my parents telling me, that was only, 6 or 7 feet up, but they made it look like it was actually the top of a building, which when you think about
it looks good for the actual movie.
Yeah, it's incredible.
And there's also coming to the end of the film. Of course, Dana, Sigourney Weaver, goes to the museum and picks up Oscar that's lying there.
Right.
But then when she tries to escape, it's like Vigo snatches him and he starts to sort of float back towards the thing that he was led on. I thought that was a cool effect as well.
And that was cool because my daughter brought me Cheerios with hot sauce. That's my snack right now. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Yes, apparently I put hot sauce on so many things that Cheerios is an okay thing to add it on now too. But at least she's making me food. Yeah, my dad was actually the one who was holding us in that scene. You can't see it. And they wanted to have, one of the, I can't remember if it was a stunt actor or somebody else holding us. And my dad was like, no, you're going to put me in the scene. And I'm going to make sure that they're safe while they're supposed to be floating across the screen.
Yeah.
So just another example of my dad being a little bit harder than most parents, I would assume, on the set of just random kids that got picked up for a movie. But I think he was just so used to being around famous people because he was, the brother of John Denver. So he was just always kind of around famous people. So he didn't really feel bad about saying what he wanted to get out of situations like that, as opposed to other people who are like, oh, I don't want to offend anyone, like Bill Murray or something on the set.
Yeah. Of course, the interaction with Bill Murray and Sigourney Weaver, because of course in the film she played your mother,
Right.
Was really the interaction was good. It was like completely real, like as though as though she was your actual mother and stuff. It was like
Right. Yeah, no, that was great. I still get whenever I tell someone that I was the baby Oscar and they're a Ghostbusters fan, the first thing they always say is, poor man named after a hot dog, like that's the line that they always remember from the movie. And I just remember that scene where it's like they're sitting there with, putting the sweater on me or Hank and everything, and it's like it seems like a very it just seems really well played out. You can tell that it seemed very natural as opposed to like other scenes where, kids just don't really seem like they belong in the movie very much, or it just seems awkward or out of place.
Yeah. And also the testing the baby at the beginning for paranormal activity and stuff.
Oh yeah, that was great.
So obviously when growing up, what do you kind of when rewatching the movie, what do you kind of think out of it then? like knowing you were like a child in it, and then you grew up watching it? What kind of things do you?
You know, I talk about this all the time. Hank and I, because my dad was so outspoken, were a little bit more introverted, which ironically our uncle was introverted too. Our dad was more extroverted. So we didn't like people talking about us being in the movie. We felt embarrassed. You know, when most people would be like proud or think it's really cool, I would hate it when I'd be like, oh no, you know, my dad's going to bring up the movie again, you know, like whenever we would meet new people or something like that. And so it's funny because it wasn't until I got to high school that I really felt good about it. And it's because my now wife, my girlfriend at the time, she didn't believe that I was in a movie because I
Yeah,
realized at that point, like, all right, well, I can drop this, you know, and this will be like, give me a little bit of props, so I'll throw it at her. And she's always been into children. Like, for the longest time, I thought she was just going to be a preschool teacher or something like that. So that was like my in. I was like, you got to come watch me because I was the baby in this movie, you know. And so that was like the first time where I was like, yeah, you know what, this is cool. This is like helping me out. But before then, I didn't want to talk about it at all because I just felt embarrassed. I didn't like being the center stage, I guess.
have you introduced any of you? How old are your kids? Are they old enough to see the sequel or any of the?
You know, my eldest daughter, Allie, she's watched it. My youngest daughter, I haven't had watch it.
Do they,
But
are they still like? Is that you? Or was that you back then?
yeah, was that me or was that your, you know, Uncle Hank? Yeah, it's hard right now because I still have a hard time telling. My parents claim that they can tell and remember, but after so much time, and you
Yeah,
can't really know which one they picked in terms of like which take. I don't know how they can tell the difference because we're so identical.
yeah.
Uh, but yeah, my daughters are definitely, you know, into the fact that I was a baby in the movie. And it's so cool because a lot of kids now, there's so many videos of children because we all have iPhones. But back then, we didn't really have, you know, anything like that for home movies. But I basically have a home movie right on the screen. So if any of my grandkids or anything want to see what it was like when we were babies, it's like, oh, just watch the movie. You know, it's right there.
Yeah. So, do you have any, well, you know, when watching back, any scenes you were like proud of, or some, or anything like that, or scenes that could have
No,
been done
the only
better, or
the thing that always probably one of the reasons why I was embarrassed as a kid was my dad would say things like, you know, my twin brother and I were one take babies, which is like scenes we're proud of. What do we really have to do? You know, like as long as we didn't burst into tears every time we were on set, weren't we doing our job? You know, like but he would say that Ivan Reitman would make jokes like, oh, if I could get Bill Murray to do the scene as fast as your boys, you know, we'd finish this movie in no time. But it's like all we had to do was sit there, you know. It's like you clap and ring a bell, we look in the right direction, you know, out the window. So I don't really feel a lot of pride in any of the scenes. I do think it's cool. The scene where we're on the ledge. That would be like my
yeah,
favorite if I had to pick one because I think that's just a cool scene, you know, baby out on the edge. Because I could only imagine if my
yeah, it
daughter,
gives them like realism. If you're watching realism in your mind, you think that's like kind of dangerous, you know. So in that kind of
yeah,
way,
like I'm like what I think that was what me and Hank would ask is like, why would you let us on a ledge? And that's why my dad was like, oh no, it was only X high, and supposedly there was like some kind of contraption you can't see under our onesie that they edited out so that there was no risk of falling. But
yeah.
still, you know, when you see it, it's like, man, that seems kind of intense, you
You
know?
certainly, you were both certainly well looked after on that set.
Yeah.
um, do you do like signings or comic cons and or stuff like that, or
No, I've done some signings here locally. I was a part of, I facilitate meetings for survivors of suicide loss in San Diego, and I've done some signings to raise money for them. The last signing I did was last year during COVID, and I took the majority of it because I run a martial arts business and we're all in a pandemic. So you can only imagine how effective it is trying to teach martial arts when we can't touch each other or get close to each other. So that's definitely been hard on business. So I have done those. I'd love to do a Comic Con event, but it's just never really lined up. I've never
yeah?
had a good time where it was like, okay, well, I can get
Like
away
kind of
from.
photographs of a glass of Oscar and just signing them.
I know.
or I don't know, maybe like a photograph of back then or a picture next to it as now of how you look, and just, you know, those kind of, I don't know, like a back then or before and after type deal.
Right. One of the guys, Tom, who did the last signing, he had that big picture of, that painted picture of, the four Ghostbusters and us in the center. And I
Yeah.
thought that was really cool because it was like a blown up 2 by 2 foot, portrait. And I was like, man, like I could put something like that on my wall. Like I don't want to have anything from the movie really, but I was like, that's kind of cool, because that was like professionally painted. So it'd be nice to
Yeah,
have
so
something like that.
that's what Vigo melted into afterwards. It was just the four of them with you in the middle.
Yeah.
Yes. Um, how long have you been a martial artist since after Ghostbusters and everything else? So after the movie, you got older and stuff. You went to school, college, and stuff. What did you do say after college?
Yeah, after Hank and I started our martial arts business at 19, and here I'm going to move really fast just because I think I've got someone coming in the front door and the dogs are going to go crazy. But yeah, we started the martial arts business before we even got out of college. We started it right after high school. So it wasn't something we were doing basically afterwards. We did it right as soon as we could because we were hoping that it would become a full-time thing. But originally, it was just a part-time business that we started that just to magically work out. And we'd been training since we were 13 years old, and we started teaching at 15 because we loved it so much. We were those kids who were like always there at the school who, they'd have to tell you to leave because it was time to close up. And eventually, we just found some of the guys who wanted to start a school, and we decided to go for it.
Do you have any GB fans come to your martial arts place and say,
Yes. Yes, I do. Which isn't a bad thing, as long as they let me know they're coming. It's people who
like Oscar's older.
Yeah, it's like disappointed. The only thing that makes me look like Oscar now is I don't have any hair. That's about all I have going for me. But yeah, I mean, people randomly show up sometimes, and it's like, oh, I'm working, so there's not much I can do. But every now and then, someone will be really cool and be like, hey, will you send this back if I send it to you and sign it, and they give me the return envelope and everything. I don't mind doing stuff like that at all because it's no different than some kind of, cultural thing I'm into. Like I'm into anime, so it'd be, something like a Dragon Ball Z guy that I could just get something signed easy.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's the only weird thing is having people just randomly show up because our address is online and everything like that because they realize we're in the area.
So, how old were you when you were in the movie?
Say that one more time.
How old were you when you was in the movie?
We were only 8 or 9 months old. We were less than a year.
Are you like 32 now?
Yeah, 32 years old.
Yeah. I was born in 1984. So I was born during the summer of the original movie, the first film.
Oh, gotcha.
So, as it says 5 years later at the beginning of the second one, that's exactly why I was 5 years old. 5 years old when the second one came out.
That's actually really cool. So, did you see it in theaters when you were 5 years old, or did you end up watching it later?
I think I just got on VHS. Just
gotcha.
on VHS. I don't have no memories of actually going to the movie theater, but I kind of find the sequel my favorite movie of all time.
That's good. It's always interesting talking to Ghostbusters fans because it seems like they either love the sequel or they hated it. Like I very rarely have someone who's like, yeah, the second one was good, but I like the first one better. It's usually like, well, they just copied the first movie.
They do say about the copying it because the whole thing with the Marshmallow Man in the first one and the walking Statue of Liberty in the second one. Oh yeah, and I'll say this because I'm on this call and I got to say this because back in 2018, I went and did the tour of New York.
Oh, yeah?
And I went to the Customs House. It was, of course, acting as the Manhattan Museum of Art. So I went there, actually, where originally the portrait of Vigo was and stuff.
I would check that out. I've never even thought about going and visiting that because that would be really interesting to see.
I could maybe post or send a link to my video of when I went there.
Yeah, that would be cool. I'd love to see that because
Yeah,
I've never even thought, oh yeah, the whole movie was placed in New York. Like why wouldn't I want to go and check out some of the places that I don't think they actually filmed anything in New York, but now I can't remember. I thought they, just made it seem that way, but I'll have to ask my parents.
because the museum, that's actual
Yeah.
on set back in the day. That was actually on set. You were on that set.
Yeah.
And in that museum, in that museum, you was on set as well because that's where the portrait of Ego was. And everything.
Gotcha. Yeah, so I mean that's really cool. I'll have to check that out.
So you've not been to New York? I mean, you've been to New York back in the day, but not recently.
No, that would be the only time. We never actually got to go anywhere on the East Coast. Really, the farthest I've been is Colorado or Oklahoma, and that's more the Midwest. And right now in the U.S., the Midwest is kind of like this weird, I don't know, tribal area to me, just because of the way everything's worked out politically. So I would love to go to New York, though. That sounds like it would be a lot of fun.
Have you been to? You're in California, are you?
Yeah, that's right. I'm in San Diego.
Mm-hmm. San Diego, that's where you have that big Comic Con, yeah.
Yeah, and I've been to that one, and my wife always jokes that I should go dressed up in a yellow onesie.
Like an old Oscar.
Because I could probably pay for my tickets, like if I just buy some really expensive ones and then just walk around like that. Who knows when we'll get to do that again? But at some point, that would be kind of cool to do something like that.
Kind of funny.
Have my wife push me in a stroller, who knows? What the heck?
Have you been abroad, to different countries? Have you been to England?
Being a martial artist, I've traveled to, China, Hong Kong. Never been to England.
No.
And I mean, now after the pandemic, I definitely would want to travel there because it seems like who knows when you could never travel. The whole thing is like, oh, you can travel when you retire. But now I'm like, hey, after this, maybe we should actually spend some time traveling to make sure that we get to see all these places because who knows when to do that again.
I bet it's been hard working as a martial artist with the whole pandemic thing going on, is it?
Yeah, it has been. And there's been a lot of Zooming, so when you first messaged me, I have to be honest, my first reaction was, oh God, I don't want to spend another 30 minutes on a line on a call because I have to teach a lot online, which the only thing I can attribute being able to teach online to is because I've been doing it and teaching for, 17 years. Otherwise, I don't think I'd have the ability to do this, but I'm definitely running out of the energy to do it. Because, even kids online, when they're like, you know what, the parents tell me the kid wants to stop, or an adult's like, hey, you know what, I can't do this anymore, I'm going to take a break. I'm like, I can't blame you. It's just not the same. Other hobbies, you just, like tennis, you can still play tennis. You can't really do martial arts and punch someone in the head without getting within 6 feet.
So, back to Ghostbusters a sec. Are you a fan of the first film? The first movie?
Yeah, I definitely liked the first film. I actually found the first film was scarier, probably because I wasn't in it as a kid.
Yeah.
I thought the first film was scarier than the second.
Yeah. Have you played the video game? Because in 2009 there was a video game, wasn't there, as well, that was released?
Yeah, you know what? I did give that a shot. I never actually played through the whole thing. I just watched that scene on YouTube where you got Vigo the Carpathian, as like an Easter egg, and he says the whole that has Deutschendorf in it, and I always thought that was really cool that they did so much legwork to include something like that in there.
Yeah.
But no, I hadn't played through the whole game. I should give that a shot.
And how about the movie that's to come, Ghostbusters Afterlife?
I think that's going to be really cool. I'm excited for that movie. I want to see where they go with it. I think, when they came out with the other Ghostbusters a couple years back with all the women actresses, I wasn't really against that. It was just I didn't go in with the mindset of it being the same movie.
Because that was a completely different universe. Like the original four guys, they it's like they didn't even exist,
Right. So I mean, you can't really go in with the mindset of it's going to be the same type of thing. I mean, you're going to have people who are upset because it's the same, and you're going to have people who are upset because it's different no matter what, right? But it. Okay, you guys stop bringing me Cheerios with hot sauce, okay? You're not feeding the dogs right now. I did. I did feed the dogs. Very helpful child.
They sound really cool.
My youngest looks a lot like me, or Hank. So that's like what my wife always says is that when she was little, she looked a lot like Hank and I in that movie, which is kind of cool because, especially since I had her and then Hank died 6 months later, it was kind of cool because she looks so similar to me, even though my wife's Chinese and usually kids look more, like the Chinese or, the darker person in the relationship. So that's always been nice that she kind of looks like a little baby Oscar running around with hair.
Here's a little question. With Ghostbusters Afterlife, if Oscar was, what would your thoughts be if Oscar was in the movie? Would you think he would have later, would you think he would have later became a Ghostbuster in his life, or what would your thoughts have been on that?
If I was baby Oscar back then, and I knew any of the history about what happened, I would think that I would want to get as far away from New York as humanly possible. Yeah. If it was me. I mean, we can't really personify his personality too much, but given the movie, I would think, why would you want to stay there and risk anything like that?
Yeah.
What's stopping
you were taken over by him.
Yeah, exactly. Like, there's nothing more ominous than Vigo standing right behind your shoulder, staring at me. It would make me uncomfortable, I would think.
Isn't it like in the movie? I just remembered this, thankfully. In the movie, come to the end of it. Isn't it like again, I don't know if it was you or if it was your brother, but the part when Vigo was just holding you up, and then he started going all funny because the people outside was singing Auld Lang Syne.
Right.
And in the end, he dropped you in the end because he was all going all demonic and everything. I thought that was a really kind of scary scene because you ended up. I mean, Venkman, thankfully caught you. That was okay, but it was still quite. It was still
right. And I think if I remember correctly, that was another one of those scenes where my dad actually made sure and did a lot of the legwork. He dressed up in a Ghostbusters costume for either, the take, and they somehow, just changed it with, special effects or whatever you want to call it. But yeah, that was another one of those scenes where my dad was like, I don't really think you guys are going to do this. Not without him trying to get involved. So, but I agree. That was a very scary scene, especially watching it as a kid, thinking like, what the heck is really going on right here?
When you saw it as a kid growing up, what age would you say you saw it later? What age would you say you saw it when you saw it as a youngster? We
saw it really young. We saw it like when we were 3 or 4 years old. I mean, my parents had no problem showing it to us because we were on set. So, and I don't ever remember being scared of the movie at all because we were in the movie. So it's like, well, everything must have worked out.
Is there any, I don't know, because I mean, I know you were like so young, but isn't there like no like glimpses of like tidal glimpses of?
You would think that, but if there ever was in my memory bank, doing martial arts and doing full contact fighting, I've been hit in the head so many times, they're gone.
Yeah.
There might have been at one point, but I don't remember anything at all from the movie. I wish I did. That'd be really cool. But all I have are stories.
Yeah. And of course, Sigourney Weaver must be on set with you a lot because she was your on-screen mother.
Right.
Peter McNichol, who played Janos Pohar, I don't think he was with you a lot on set because he was mainly the guy in the museum.
Right. I think he's probably my favorite actor in the movie. I still use that line today when I'm training like my black belt students or like my older teen kids, where I walk up and I say, everything you're doing is bad. I just want you to know that. I think that's a great line from a movie. Yeah. And that's why I think the second one's so good, is because there is still such good humor in it, despite it being so similar to the first one. It's not like they reused a lot of the content in terms of like making the characters funny or, you know, their personalities. It all just added to the movie. It wasn't just the same thing.
My favorite scene in the film, as I love all the Oscar, I love all the Oscar bits because sometimes they can be really like, terrifying and you know different bits like that. Up to the last bit, like I said, when Vigo drops you because of what was happening to him. But my other like main favorite scene in the film was the Scoleri brothers.
Oh yeah, that was definitely a scary
because
scene.
obviously Ray is the one that ends up going down underneath the sea to find the river of slime. And then the other one, I think cops come along and say, "Why are you digging here?" and stuff. They get arrested in the end. Of course, go to court.
Right.
And, it's Harris Yulin who played Judge Wexler. Starts raising his voice, and of course that of course the jar of slime blows over and then releases those two spirits. Of course, when I like the whole part when they put like their packs over the top of their business suits because they don't have their actual Ghostbuster gear.
Yeah.
But they put their packs like back here. This is my prop replica. It is an actual Ghostbusters 2 version.
Really? That's cool.
Yeah. There's it's this bit here, this like ribbon cable here. This is a GB2 version.
Yeah.
Yeah. And here at the top, that crank knob just there, that's a GB2 version as well. And so for the first film, it would be grey. That's pretty. Should I just quickly show you pretty? I'll show you. Ready?
Yeah. Wow, that's awesome.
Can't really see everything. I've probably got the starlight there. If I press here.
Very cool.
So,
never did a con, I definitely have to do something like bring a pack on my back with the yellow onesie. I don't think I could show up without one, you know, because otherwise people might just be like, what the heck is this guy doing in a yellow onesie? But if I'm walking around with a Winnie the Pooh and a, you know, Ghostbusters
pack on your back.
Yeah, like people have got to put the connections together.
Yeah. But,
James, I hate to do this to you, but I can hear my 4-year-old destroying things, and I hate to cut it short, but I am just terrified about what I'm going to walk into when I leave this garage. But
that's all right. You got to go, have you?
Yeah. My apologies.
That's all right. No, that was a good time. It was a good time to swap. It's 33 minutes. It's got a good gone past half an hour. So thank you for that.
Yeah, of course.
I'll say just quick goodbye to the fans that are watching the recording, and we'll say goodbyes. Guys, I hope you enjoyed watching with my guest here today, who was Will Deutschendorf. Again, I hope I haven't butchered the last name.
That's okay. Thanks for having me.
Yes, good. But, until my next videos, goodbye. My next video, guys, goodbye, and take care for now.